You guys see the condescending attitude of liberalism, which I despise. I said many times before, I despise liberalism with every ounce of my core. Liberalism led to a genocide. And I said in my tweet here, why is it so hard for liberals to just shut the fuck up and listen? So you guys can respond to anything I just showed you guys here. I want to go around the panel in a very vague way. I'm asking you guys about the abandoned Biden movement and liberals wagging their finger at you guys. So I guess I want you guys to take it multiple ways. You guys can talk about the abandoned Biden movement, your thoughts on that, and just this general mindset. If you're listening only, I'm going to read the headline of this. If you only listening, look at this headline. Do Arab American and Muslim voters really want to elect Trump? For one, and this is the last thing I'm going to say before I pass the panel, because I know you guys are probably fuming. I am very annoyed by this liberal tactic, and you've seen Biden and Bernie do this as well, where they're pretending that only Muslims care about the genocide. Now, only Palestinians care about the genocide. I have a wild number to show you guys later. Black and brown people don't fuck with Israel, but they try to pretend that it's only the Muslims. You only have to be a Muslim to speak out against this. You guys know how much this disgusts the black community? I have people who don't follow politics that know that I follow politics. Like, Nick, what's going on in Gaza, bro? But anyway, I pass to the panel. I'm gonna go opposite order, but feel free to chime in. We're having a conversation. Feel free to chime in if you feel a good time to. But let's start with Bushra first. If you have anything you want to chime in on, there's a lot there, but I pass to you for any vague thoughts.
I'm like shaking right now because the word there that's like Muslim and this agenda to treat Muslims as some like monolith, as if there's not elitist Muslims here who benefit from war and capitalism. And we are seeing this and we're fighting against this within our communities. It was Ramadan and we were seeing feds and Zionists being invited to local masjids or mosques as guest speakers or guests to breaking the fast. And we're like, what's going on? There's a capitalist interest shared with these oppressors on our backs. So when you see a headline like this, it's very telling to me that they specifically mention Muslim voters. Yeah. Because it's that elite class of Muslims right now that we see extremely involved in a lot of the, in my opinion, traitorous, cowardly, backward. I'm going to go as far as to say munafiq. I'm saying that as a Muslim, munafiqun behavior, which basically means hypocrites, where they're looking at their material interests before they look at the principles. So this kind of propaganda right here is very interesting. And for the innocent Arab or Muslim, they're going to read this and it's going to target them. But I think that's some of the work that we try to do here, like some of us on this panel, is to get resources out to our community and educate them so they know why they're being targeted and just how much power they potentially hold if they do fall for this kind of agenda, or if they start to refuse and hold a more principled line and safeguard our communities from this type of what I see infiltration by liberal agendas and lobbies.
We gotta have Bushra. You are I'm greatly enjoying your comments because you sound like me when I talk about the black community.
there's commonalities, you know, and I've held, and I to my closer circle, you know, I'll be honest, I feel like in some way our communities, you know, haven't studied or maybe came here within their own trauma, that they didn't have the ability or the capacity to maybe look at what was happening. And this is no excuse by all means. In fact, I don't know how to say this, but it just pisses me off sometimes that we don't look around and see what occurred with the black community. Is these tactics were exercised on the black community, and these tactics continue today. But we're so isolated from each other sometimes that we don't see those similarities and we just fall for it. You know, just like we have the Palestinian Authority and the Hussam Zumlots on Instagram and these so-called elected officials to speak on our behalf, we saw the Al Sharptons, we saw the Jesse Jacksons do that. We saw Barack Obama come up. You know, they don't represent the street or the struggle, but they were bought out for their color and their skin and the name. And we're seeing that with our people, with Muslims or Arab or Palestinian, is that objectification and exploitation of identity. And that is a key liberal tactic that we all have to be wary of. And if we can tap into that as a collective across our communities and recognize that, they will be powerless. But it's those weak ones within our community that are like giving the snakes an inlet into our homes.
You know the first Substack article I wrote, I think did pretty well, was about my criticism of how neoliberalism infected the Black community, how we went from embracing Marxist Leninist organizations like the Black Panthers and socialism like MLK, and being anti-capitalist like Malcolm X, who said if you find a capitalist, you find a cockroach. Like, our community was strongly anti-capitalist, and then we became neoliberals over the period of the 60s to now, which led to racial income inequality between Black and white people being worse right now than the height of the civil rights era. So I don't want to get on the rant, because you guys know I can on this. Like, this is what I do. I critique the Black bourgeois, and that's why your comments are very interesting, because it's very rare for me to hear that revolutionary critique of the Muslim community. Obviously, I can't make it as efficiently. So anyway, I'm passing to the rest of the panel. I think I saw Reem unmute. But so Reem, feel free to chime in. Whoever have anything want to chime in on before I have one more quick. Go ahead, Reem.
I would just say, look at the language being used and it the way it's framed in the article and the headline. I didn't read the entire article, but I can tell you from just the headline that they're trying to not only pin us against each other, but pin us against everyone else in the United States. So if Trump is in power, blame it on the Muslims. And this is like a classic imperial script that they've been, I don't believe in voting. I don't believe in giving any credit to this system whatsoever, whether it's blue or red or Bernie, who is a Zionist, by the way. Even when I was younger, I fell for Bernie. Literally, maybe for a year, I was a fan, and after that, I just, the rug was ripped from underneath me, and he's a diehard Zionist, and it's only when you start asking the right questions and picking away at the language that they're using and critiquing what you're seeing in the media that you start to understand where this is all going. There's a lot of tricks out there. There's a lot of Bernie is a psyop. Bernie is a psyop, a huge psyop. And I know a lot of people are gonna, go crazy if they hear me say this, but
not in this community.
I'm
loving it. This definitely gonna be a thing, because I'm loving what I'm hearing from everyone here. Like, this is right up our alley. This is the first time we're meeting, and we like almost like we've been in conversation forever. But I love it when I'm here. Go ahead, because trust me, don't get me started on Bernie either. I worked on this campaign. Don't get me started. I hate these people. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Raheem. Go ahead, Raheem.
No, you're good. No, sometimes, like Bushra said, like sometimes the weak people in the community, you got to also look at it from they're mentally colonized, because the way all of this is framed, they're treated like the good Muslim. When they go into these circles, they'll never be one of them. The liberals will never fully accept them into their circles, by the way.
Look at Mehdi Hassan.
Exactly.
Who's as milquetoast as it come. But he said he finally said he did a few good segments questioning Israeli officials. That was another get his ass fired. But anyway, go ahead, Raheem.
Yeah, no, they never fully accept us into their, no matter how much we try to water ourselves down. Like, and then you just put yourself in this situation where you gain money, but so what? You lose your community, and you lose your self-respect, and you lose your own sovereignty and your autonomy over what? Over just being a good Muslim. They don't want to be labeled as like the sort of comments that we get on social media when we criticize, this propaganda. Our own people are saying, how could you say this? Why can't you be thankful that you have an ally like Bernie? Why can't you be thankful you have a Democratic president like Biden? come on. Are we really going to forget that Biden is a pedophile? Are we really not going to talk about that just because he's a Democrat?
Read Ashley Biden's diary. By the way, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you guys know they arrested the person who leaked the Ashley Biden diary. They got sent to prison. So that shows that the Biden that diary is real. If you guys don't know what that diary said, I'm saying this to back what you set up. In that diary, Ashley explained how her dad molested her and used to shower with her. So and the person who leaked that was arrested. It's a real thing. So she's not exaggerating. Biden's a fucking molester. But go ahead, Raheem. A lot of great points.
Yeah, no, that's what I wanted to say. I just really want to encourage people to continue. Everyone I know in this circle is doing that. And I just want to encourage anyone who listens or just continue to look at the language. And even as a former journalist and someone who's worked in these spaces, like I have to read it over and over again sometimes myself to really grasp what they're trying to say between the lines. There's a lot of, psychological warfare out there targeting not only our people as Muslims, as Palestinians, as Black people, as Indigenous folks. It's against everyone. But when you've been around abusive people, you tend to, some people call it a defense mechanism, but when you've been the minority, when you've been the woman of color, when you've been the Muslim, Black sheep that they're talking about in these headlines, you tend to pay attention to these things. And I just encourage people to really pay attention to that these days.
I think Save is the last one we didn't get to. Save, anything else you want to add to this conversation? I know we all over the place at this point. I know you have a lot of thoughts, so I'll just pass it to you very vaguely.
No, I mean, yeah, all I'll say is that all these articles about, well, will the Arab vote abandon Biden, or will the Muslims put Trump in office? This is the classic example of what liberalism does, which is remove the class element of any society. It paints America as just this mosaic of different communities that are all on an equal footing that just sort of, try to work in harmony to the betterment of the country. It misses the fact that, like Bushra was saying, there is a class element in everything. There is a comprador class in the U.S., just as there is a comprador class in the West Bank. And that's one of the more, I think, insidious captures that we see is even this abandoned Biden movement. There was an article from a very reputable journal that actually ended up archiving it. I forget why, but it talked about how even this what's that campaign, uncommitted campaign is just essentially a shadow effort by Democratic operatives to push Biden, or at least to give the illusion that Biden has done his diligence on Gaza if and when he eventually calls for a ceasefire, which if he doesn't at this point is political suicide. Let's be abundantly clear on that for many reasons, not just for his electoral prospects. But even you see it now with Chuck Schumer too, with his attempt to say that Netanyahu is the problem, to sort of scapegoat the fact that what Israel is doing in Gaza has parallels and precedent throughout the entirety of its history. It came to be through genocide and through ethnic cleansing. And guess what? The worst of it happened. The Nakba happened under the labor Zionist government, under, Zionists that were supposedly, quote, left-wing, unquote. And that Netanyahu is carrying out this brutal genocidal war purely for his own political survival and to appease the far-right elements of his cabinet doesn't make much of a difference. Yeah, and then you see here what you're seeing. You're pulling up the AOC. Oh, my God, yeah. See, if AOC endorses something, it's suspect. Like, if AOC...
Ro Khanna, all those swamp monsters came in and was like, oh, this uncommitted thing is the best thing ever. I said before, I think a lot of people who are voting uncommitted I think they have revolutionary potential.
Yes.
I think the professional managerial class is using this as a Hail Mary. And I will be very disappointed if anyone fall for it. But my position right now, maybe I might be wrong. My position right now, I don't think people are going to fall for it. Like this thing where they're trying to turn it into voting for Biden. But anyway, I want you to finish your thoughts, Save, and I'll pass to Ashley after that.
No, all I'll say is, because you sort of alluded to this at the beginning, I see a lot of parallels to this in 2020. I see a lot of very well-meaning people who are galvanized by the horrors that they're seeing and have a genuine indignation are being co-opted into these liberal solutions that end up only sort of, perpetuating the same cycles of harm and systems of oppression. And I do think that from abandoned Biden to voting uncommitted, it's the same capture that we see. I'm not saying that, in the US per se, we're dealing with very different material conditions. We need to educate people. We need to get them to a more firm anti-colonial understanding of the situation. But again, the second that AOC tries to say anything, and I want to be clear, Bernie sucks. AOC is to the right of Bernie in a lot of respects. Bernie believes in what he's doing. AOC is a shameless careerist through and through. She is like...
I heard from a lot of people, and I seen Bernie's early politics. Bernie used to speak up against Ronald Reagan's death squads in the global south. He used to get called a I'm blanking right now, but he used to get called an anti-American traitor.
Yeah,
a red.
He honeymooned in Moscow, like during the Soviet years. Like he believes. I've said this a lot about Bernie. He is one of the only politicians in the U.S. who actually has principles, but that doesn't mean that they're good principles. Like he lived.
The point I was making is I think there was a point where Bernie tried to fight, but then he sold out. And that's what Mike Bernie talk about. I think it was around the late 90s where he's like, fuck it. I quit. Because you can see he was a lot more principled. He wasn't perfect, especially on Israel. He was always a Zionist. But he was better than he was now. He gave up. This is the difference between Bernie and AOC to me. At least Bernie had that appearance for a decade or so where he fought and he gave up. AOC, you guys see how fast she gave up? There wasn't even an appearance where she was ever an oppositional figure. Go ahead, say. I'll let you finish your thought and we get Ashley in here.
No, I'm just saying, Bernie, he has been a Zionist. He is the perfect example of what they call a labor Zionist, which is a left Zionist. He lived on a kibbutz. And just like we're seeing now, there is no left. There's no such thing as an Israeli leftist. Let's be abundantly clear on that. In Israel, there was for a time, I'm not saying they were ever pro-Palestine. There used to be a left wing of Zionism. That is vanished now because the indoctrination that Israel has committed to in its schools, the great, you should read him critically, but Ilan Pappé wrote about this in the early 2000s, that the new generation of Israelis would be the most militant and right-wing and murderous that the country had ever seen because of the education curriculum that they were implementing. And he's been proven correct. There's not a single dissenting voice in Israel right now against this war. There are people who want Netanyahu out because they think he's the problem, but not a single person in Israel proper, not a single settler opposes the war on principle or opposes what's being done to Gaza. And there's all of the left-wing Zionists are in the U.S. It's Chuck Schumer. It's Bernie Sanders. It's AOC. They're the people who want Israel to keep existing, who want there to be a slow genocide as opposed to an immediate one.
The idea of a left-wing Israeli is probably the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. You guys realize that poll showed that only 2% of Israelis thought they was bombing Gaza too much. The left-wing position of Israel is that we should kill all the Palestinians. That's the left-wing position. They have no problem with Netanyahu. In fact, the oppositional party to the Likud party said that we are 100% behind Netanyahu. I quoted that a few months ago. There's no opposition there. Ashley, any thoughts on the abandoned Biden movement? And then I want to get Bushra in here, and we can wrap up here very soon.
I could talk a lot about it, but I know we're running out of time, so I will just I'll probably talk very quickly. several thoughts. Okay, so first of all, if you abandoned Biden / uncommitted / uninstructed, they're all the same thing. I saw it like right when it came out. Okay,
Yeah.
So basically, if you think about 2016, it was vote blue no matter who. If you think about 2020, it was this like vote Trump out campaign. Each time, all it was just a way to get you to vote for the Democrat without actually telling you to vote for the Democrat, because they know they couldn't sell them because they were horseshit, right? So they say vote Trump out, not vote for Biden. They say vote blue no matter who because we're gonna end up cheating and putting Hillary in as the thing anyway. But there's like studies that actually show that if you get people to pledge to vote, they're significantly more likely to vote. So I saw it personally from a mile away. It was this. They know they can't sell us Biden. I mean, are you serious? They can't sell us Biden right now, or anyone. Just to be clear, I am completely anti-electoralism. Okay, just to be very clear about that. But what I'm trying to get at here, first of all, it incenses me. It makes my blood boil thinking about the fact that they are literally using this contrived fake grassroots movement. They are exploiting our people's blood, the martyrs' blood. They're exploiting the sacrifices they have made to try to sell people, the very people that are spilling the blood. They're trying to sell us Biden by saying stop the genocide. They're saying stop the genocide, vote uninstructed. But ultimately, the goal is, by the way, the goal of that movement was to vote for Biden. You can see it on their website. It literally says, how can we get you to vote for Biden? The only point of that is to get you to vote blue in November. And anyway, I have a theory that probably Biden's either going to get sick or he's going to die or he's going to step down or something. And they're going to shove Kamala in, and that's who's going to be the blue. And that's why they're doing this whole thing. That's my own theory, to be clear. But I want to say one more thing too. This whole uninstructed, uncommitted thing, everyone, they try to call it grassroots. They try to call it whatever. That's a fucking lie. I'm sorry. Like, I was so angry about it. You know, FEC.gov, the super PAC is called Listen to Us. Last I checked, it was well over $300,000 just in a span of a little over a month, maybe a month and a half, that they spent on this so-called grassroots movement. All these groups connected to the Democrats, these dark money groups that are funding it. They're paying students here where we live in Madison $25 an hour. They already voted $25 an hour to freaking work for this. Like, that grassroots? Are you serious? Like, no grassroots group can pay people that. Like, this was literally funded by the Democrats. It was a fake protest campaign to make people feel like they were doing something good. It's just to channel that energy and to channel that rage into action, as opposed to actually doing something remotely revolutionary. It's just try to do a protest vote. Sorry, that's it.
No, that's, once again, this is right down my alley. Like, this is something that we definitely have to do again, because we are just I made an outline and we made about halfway through the outline at this point. So we definitely had a lot to talk about, and I would love to have you guys back on. I have a few more quick things I want to show you guys. I definitely want to show you guys these few things real quick though. I saw this bit. I think this bit is a great response to the live vote shaming. And when I saw this bit, I was surprised because comedians are shit libs. Comedians are horrible generally in the West. But I think you guys will agree. I think it's a decent take. Maybe you guys might disagree with me. Let's listen to this, because this is his response to a lot of people want those headlines that you guys see of them blaming Arab Americans for Trump winning the White House potentially.
The Democrats to lose, understandably. A lot of people want the Democrats.
Sorry, let me go back to the beginning here.
A lot of people want the Democrats to lose, understandably. A lot of people want the Democrats to be punished and to suffer a historic and humiliating defeat. And white liberals are very tense, right? They're like, is that what you really want? Is that what you really want? You want Trump to come back? You want Trump to win? What I want is for you to not lecture us on how to respond to a genocide you didn't try to stop, okay? You think that's a good idea? You think that's a good idea for your community? Because it's your community that's going to suffer if Trump comes back. People like you are going to suffer. What do you think of that? I think that a political system that ultimately makes you choose between genocidal dementia and cheeseburger-powered fake tan Hitler is a system worth overthrowing, okay? Maybe that is the conclusion you should be coming to instead of lecturing black and brown people on why they don't worship the Democrats, okay?
Not gonna see this guy on the Daily Show. I think his career not gonna last that long. I was surprised at this bit. One more thing I'm gonna show you guys. I'm trying to go through these quickly just for the sake of time. This kind of almost not a mini segment, but I definitely want to show our audience this. I was doing my research for my hotspot video I made this morning, and I found this number that I found extremely interesting because I've been making a point, and white people have been very upset at me for doing this because they're this thing where people talk about the age gap because it's easy to talk about as Zionists, the age gap, because you can convince boomers that, oh, the fucking dumb young kids are terrorist sympathizers. So you guys notice they focus on the age gap instead of the racial gap. Because there's a reason why they do that. Because when you highlight the fact that Zionism is driven by white people who support colonialism, then the issue becomes way less complicated than they paint it as. You know how they say the Israel-Palestine issue is complicated? No, it is not. This is an issue of colonialism. White people support colonialism. Black and brown people oppose colonialism. That is why there's been a long time standing relationship between the Black Panthers, radical black organizations, South Africans, and the Palestinians. And now you got Latinos that's turning against Israel's siege. I'm gonna read this and I'm gonna give you guys a general reaction, and we can be. This is the last thing I absolutely want to show you guys this because I found this crazy. In this poll, only 16% of Latinos said the United States should continue to fund Israel with arms, ammunition, and funds in general. Do you guys know how crazy authoritarian our government is? When you have our population that is essentially begging our government not to arm this terrorist state, but they do it anyway? 16%, that's a wild number. And this is continuing this trend that, once again, white people don't want us to talk about. The fact that generally, when you look at this issue, it's an issue of colonialism, who get it right and who don't. A lot of people want to talk about the age gap, but a lot of people don't understand that black and brown people see what's going on in Gaza, and it makes our skin crawl. Another reason why I think it's ridiculous for them to paint it as only Arab Americans that being upset at this. I'm going to open up to the panel. Feel free to chime in. We can, anyone who wants to chime in, I going once, going twice before we move on.
I just want to say something real quick. I think Zionists have long identified, again, how they've exploited identity. And it's very clear here, identity serves a role, and that identity linkage to class is important also to note. In response to this, I think that's why you're seeing formations like the so-called Squad under the arms of Bernie Sanders and their liberal Zionist funders formulate because their identities present something to show that, hey, we can take a middle ground and still be pro-Israel. And even that is failing. I mean, here alone we've heard, and we do see the chat. I have been looking at the chat for those who asked, but I think a lot of people are noticing the clowns that just put on the mask and play the game and put on the performance. And so right now I just want to warn the audience that there's another propaganda agenda that we saw take mainstream today on Vox, but has been formulating for several years now in what a lot of Zionists are promoting as the Mizrahi identity. This is a made-up identity that's tied directly to the creation of the Zionist colony. And essentially what a Mizrahi is could be anybody who is Arab, Levantine, Iranian, Turkish, but essentially Mizrahi means Arab passing. And their role in the early stages and through today has been violent. They make up a big amount, a majority of the settlers within so-called Israel. So here you see the liberal Zionists promoting, a Zionism is white supremacy kind of language to really dilute and simplify the dynamics of their agenda and how they exploit identity. Right now, the Mizrahi identity is becoming a very highly invested agenda by folks at J Street, if not now, JVP, and they're hoping that by promoting this identity, they can say, hey, some of us are Arab. We're just like you. We want to stay. Let's build together, without any form of land return, reparations, liberation for our prisoners. And so I think they do recognize that people of color know what it is to be oppressed. And they also know what it is to have traitors amongst them, sellouts, snitches, whatever you want to call them. And this promotion of the Mizrahi agenda, I think, is a very desperate measure by Zionists to try to show, hey, we can also be people of color too, or BIPOC, or whatever phrase they want to use. We're like you. I mean, Bernie Sanders went so far as to say he marched in the civil rights movement. But when we come back and look at his stances, it's always a litmus test. You can always tell a person's principles and who they are based on their position when it comes to the Zionist entity. And I'm really sorry so many people were duped. But if you looked at that initially, it would have been clear from the get-go. The dude is not for the working class. The dude is not for any of our liberation. He's one on a spectrum of many to get us corralled into a certain agenda, and that's it. So as a Palestinian who's lived in Palestine, me looking at this political system, I don't give a fuck. It's all oppressive to me. It's the enemy. My vote, if I were to write something in, Abu Ubaidah, all the way.
Well said.
I just add to that really quickly. One thing
Reem.
notice is that the Mizrahi, they'll always try to position them to talk over us. They're always positioning to talk over us. And they started pulling out that Mizrahi card over the past, I would say 5 years is when I really noticed it, but it was more intense in the past couple of years because they started realizing that they're really losing the narrative. But now they're talking over us, and the liberal Zionists who claim to be Jewish allies are also being pushed to talk over us, and they're constantly centering their experiences, especially.
Yeah, it is true. That is absolute. I noticed that too. Like these. Go ahead. Go ahead. Let you finish. I absolutely noticed that.
If you can you imagine like if a German ally came out during the Holocaust and was centering the fact that they're an ally and centering their own community. Oh, I'm doing this for the Jews, and I'm doing this for the Jews, and I'm saving Jews from Nazis. If they were doing that during that time, they would have been called anti-Semites. You're anti-Semitic. You're this. You're that. It's just there's a lot of wayward behavior happening, a lot of psyops, and people really need to be careful with who they trust in these movements. If someone is speaking over a principled Palestinian, a principled Muslim who understands the Sawabid, the principles of the liberation movement and the resistance, then there's something wrong there.
Well said. This was a great conversation. I see you save. I know sometimes StreamYard boosts you guys. I learned a lot, as I always do, whenever Ashley brings me these amazing guests. So I appreciate your helping you guys attending. I pass it to. I guess I'll pass it to Ashley first. Like I won't give last thoughts. Anything you guys want to wrap on? Anything you guys want to promote? I pass it to the panel. I want to end it on something you guys want to promote. Bashar, Reem, Save, Ashley. Any last things, any last words or anything you want to promote before you wrap up? Going once, going twice.
I'll just quickly, and this is like kind of low on the priority list because if there's anything like any GoFundMe's or anything that someone is thinking of that I can't think of right now, please drop it in here. But quickly, I just wanted to throw out there's something called Week for Palestine happening. You can follow there's various cities in the U.S. U.S. is in Turtle Island and various places throughout the world that are doing this. Follow it if you can. It's on Instagram. It's Week for Palestine. I think it's _US. But then there's the larger account, which is just Week for Palestine. Just follow that, where it's first week of May, and then that's all I have to say. There's a lot more that I could end on, many more things that are probably more useful. So if the rest of y'all think of something that's much better than that, that's more useful, please just throw that in there. Anyway.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining on. Going towards Bushra. Anything you want to add?
I just want to say Eid Mubarak to everyone observing. I know it's a tough Eid. We're not able to really celebrate right now. It's a very somber time. Just keep your heads up and just know we exist and we appreciate your support. And thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Great to have you guys. I'm going to wrap it there. Thank you guys for joining us. I'll pop you guys in the back. Once again, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Ashley, for helping us get these guests as well.